I was going to read three things, including the title from my new book that's coming out. The title Christina gave you is only the short version. It's a very long title, but I don't seem to have it, so I guess I won't do that. So I'll read something sad and then something funny. The sad thing is entitled Micro Lectures from the Short Course on Nature. And it's a 15-week graduate-level college course, which will take about 8 or 9 or maybe 12 minutes to read. I don't know if you can get credit for it, but you should check with your institution. Micro lectures from the short course on nature. It starts out with a guy who seems to be more or less babbling. Language not as a slideshow, but as a roadblock. Language not as innately on the go, but as noisy friction, defiant. And we have the first class. It's called Frame. Folks, this is Frame, a feeling, an underwriting, Earth's warm-up kiss. He never met us, the foreigner's knowledge. Oh, Frame, gesture to people, so grateful, simple people above town, friends turn skyward, the place with stars. And then you'd go away and you'd come back the next week for the second lecture from the micro lectures from the short course on nature. This one's entitled Speck is a Spore. He is no beginning. Have you the underside of a fern leaf, speck? Ferns never made seeds, but speck grew spores, too. His tiny hairs hold him in place, serve him. He has no roots, yet he can, from air and water, have roots. So he cannot make food? He lives on dead, rotten, dried, decaying. He is fun? Big fun, mold's fun. He, dead, waste. And it's actually not a purely lecture course. There's also a lab component to it, so you have to do some experiments. The first experiment is titled Me, a Sore Pin. Use a mushroom or a thin coat of glue. Remove the mushroom. The second experiment is called Go Old. Set fresh bread in the open air for an hour. Then look at the bread every day. And the third experiment is entitled Me, Amen. Cover with some sand the soil. Plant the soil with glass. The third lecture is called Come. Come. Stop growing, drop, leave many flowers and die, but get ready to eat mice. Store food underground, burrow for sleep, sleep around all winter. Only life goes on. In the spring we melt, thaw, grow, and leave. Come out, sleep once again. The next lecture is entitled Re-Time. The main job of most animals, animals like people, sleep, and just the opposite. At night they go for rats. Other animals feel the deep water there in oceans dark. These animals do not have night and day. They just rest. Well, some go to the movies to keep themselves steady. They do not close their eyes. They cannot close their eyes. They have no eyelids. In fact, only animals like you have time. They can't lie down their heads, and they rest very well. The next lecture is called Animal Who? How do you know? You name more than you think. You list many animals. You know the giraffe, the whale, but remember, you may not think of your own 6 legs. Count them and see an insect. Count your legs, you insect, you 1,000-legger. You can think of many animals, but many animals, 1,000-leggers, are tiny drops of jelly. What are they called, animal? The next lecture is called Feed Me. Feed, and it's kind of a euphoric nature lecture. Feed me wild meals, and this is the sad story. Feed me wild meals and many small furry animals, such as squirrels, all day long. Nibblers eat all day. You eat only once in a while. Do not get hungry often. Eat about once a week in warm weather. In cold weather, feed on insects, worms, frogs, and mice. No? Once a week eaters. A mouse may be enough. You like to eat both plant and animal. Big eaters. Hunt, catch, eat. Eat again. Meat. They have sharp claws. Food. They have flat teeth. Plants. No teeth at all. Get along with teeth. Eat one way. Get food. The next lecture from the micro lecture from the short course on nature is called Plants That See. And it's divided into 3 parts, each of which is introduced by a graffito that I've collected over the years. The first one is See. An oak sees acorns, an apple sees the core of the apple. And the lecture then begins. Plants know best have big, bright plans. Small, dull you never notice the boom. Tiny, green, too, you know the flow of others small and green, the boom and the little as well as big. Flowers see, grass sees, small as dust sees, much bigger you have seen them. You call them. Corn sees, bite into corn and you will see a baby. The second part of that lecture begins with this graffito. I think I found this one in Providence, Rhode Island. You may need a magnifier. See the tiny boom? Call the others. Call flowers, bone-bearing plants, and take in things from the soil. Connect tiny pipes to windows, tiny air to sunlight. Mix with other greens. Act as sunlight as it turns tiny. Leave us some rest, some rest. The third graffito, this is from Boston. Find form in water. And this is actually the laboratory part of the course, or this week's part of the course. Experiment 1, find the place where the seen see. Experiment 2, take some fairly big sears and cut them in half. See the baby inside? Experiment 3, look with a magnifying glass. Experiment 4, try to find the tiny breath. Experiment 5, look. Experiment 6, see the tiny? The next lecture from the short course on nature, this very sad story, is entitled The Rest of the Year. Have you ever tried the tree of a trunk? Of course you have. For a tree's trunk has some oily skin, some nice smell that comes from hard green winds. Strong gusts blow them our way. And you can see there's kind of a scale in the short course on nature. It starts out with the tiny, and we're getting to larger and larger aspects of the scale of nature. This next one takes quite a leap. This lecture is on the Earth. It's called Earth Has Arrived. Each tick his heart strikes the master clock. It has been 4 billion years, but he knows now that they await arrival. The gate is open. Special dark messenger, he listens closely as each Messerschmitt passes. Never before have they sounded such charming music to his ears. He opens, fighting to form fighter plane noises. He is opening the door to his sleepy grandchildren, but it's too late. Carrying out his error, he asks calmly for forgiving, but his clay tone keeps ticking louder, each scratch digging deeper. The next lecture is entitled Why Wind? The cupboard shelf, is it empty? It looks empty. You cannot see anything, but it is really full. It's pressing on you this minute, judgment. You do not feel this pressure, logic. But there are times when I do feel. Air moves me, strongly. Things such as a balloon or a tire, too. You, out! But you, colorless particle, are not well like bits of gas. You know the name. Oxygen. Breathe oxygen. Keep alive. The air is water too small. Hang up wet clothes and they evaporate. Blow on your hand, you small breeze, you heated particle, you thin, hot radiator always rising. Then cool off. Come down, particle, thicker. And this is what makes wind start, particle. Air takes to the beach. Up, down, over and over. The next lecture is called The Green Earth. I like the forest and hat you use in green, the frogs and beans of green, especially the oxygen bottle and grass in green, the army uniform and Easter egg you use in green, especially because you create a bond. I like the avocados and acres you use in green, especially the tea and shoes of green, especially because you create a bond. I like the pond and passport you use in green, especially the elf and oregano of green, especially because you create a bond that is material yet evanescent. If these two could come together in a poem, I think the result would be fascinating. The next lecture is called Ground is to World as. The sky is a great big ball of rock. Green land animals crawl. Some creatures walk about